I took a random exit I didn't need just to prove to myself I was being paranoid, but the headlights behind me followed me down the ramp. This happened a few months ago when I was driving home after a late shift. It was around 1 a.m. and the highway was almost empty. It was so quiet that all I could hear was the sound of my tires and the radio playing quietly in the background. After I had been driving for about 40 minutes, I noticed headlights behind me. I checked my mirror out of habit, and it was nothing unusual, just a car keeping a normal distance. After a while, I noticed the car still hadn't passed me. I was already going a bit over the speed limit, so I thought maybe they didn't want to go faster because some people don't like overtaking when it's dark. A few minutes later, I changed lanes to let them go ahead, but they changed lanes as well. I remember thinking it was kind of annoying, but not scary. I told myself I was being dramatic. It's a highway, and cars end up behind each other all the time. I slowed down a bit and noticed the car behind me slowed down as well. I started to speed up a bit, and they did as well. That's when I got that feeling in my stomach, the one you get when you realize this isn't normal anymore. I wanted to check if I was just being paranoid, and so I decided to take an exit I didn't need. It wasn't near my house or anywhere I would usually go. I just picked it randomly. They followed me off the highway. At the bottom of the ramp, the road split into two directions. I just turned left without even thinking about it. They turned left too. I could feel my hands gripping the steering wheel tightly, and I kept checking my mirrors, hoping that maybe I was wrong and that they would turn away, but they didn't. I pulled into a gas station that was still open and parked right next to the building under the lights. I left my engine running. The car pulled in too and stopped a few spaces away. I couldn't see who was inside because the windows were dark. I sat there for what felt like a really long time, but it was probably only 10 seconds. My heart was pounding, and I had my phone in my hand, ready to call someone. Finally, they slowly drove away. I waited another 5 minutes before leaving and made sure I took a different route home. I was checking my mirrors the whole time. Nothing happened after that. No one followed me again, but I don't drive on that highway late at night anymore. And I never assume a car behind me is just another driver. I still lie awake thinking about how close I came to unbuckling my seatbelt and stepping out onto that highway. I don't think I would be here recording this audio today. The road I was on was long and mostly empty. Every now and then, a truck would pass me, but for most of the drive, it felt like I was the only one out there. I had the radio on low, mostly so it didn't feel too quiet. Then I noticed a car pulled up on the shoulder in front of me. The hazard lights were flashing, and the hood was popped open. There was a guy standing next to it, waving his arms slowly and trying to get my attention. I didn't really think it was a big deal. I mean, cars break down all the time, especially late at night. I slowed down a little bit as I got closer to him, but I had a weird feeling that I can't really explain. I pulled over, but I stayed inside my car and kept the engine running. The guy walked up to my window. He was probably in his late 20s or early 30s. He was wearing normal clothes, and I didn't see anything obviously threatening. He leaned forward and asked if I had jumper cables. I thought his voice was too calm for someone stuck on the side of the highway in the middle of the night. I told him, sorry, I didn't. I remember feeling bad, like I was letting him down. That's when I noticed someone else in his car. They were sitting in the passenger seat, leaning back so far that I couldn't see their face. I don't know why I didn't notice them before, but it bothered me for some reason. The man didn't step away from my window. He leaned even closer and asked if I could step out and just take a look. He said it casually, like it was no big deal. That's when I started feeling uneasy. I told myself that he probably just wanted help pushing the car or something. But something about the way he was watching me made my skin crawl. I told him I really couldn't help and that I was getting late and needed to go. His expression changed straight away and the smile vanished from his face. He didn't get angry or argue. He just stared at me. He wasn't even blinking. It was weird. I didn't say anything else. I just put the car into gear and drove off. I checked my mirrors over and over, expecting to see his car follow me, but it stayed where it was. About a mile later, I saw another car pulled over on the shoulder. Same hazard lights, in the same position and the same setup. But this time, no one was waving, and the hood was already closed. That's when I realized it felt like it was all planned perfectly. I didn't slow down. I didn't even look at it for more than a second. I just kept driving until I reached a rest area with lots of people around. I sat in my car for a while before getting out, just trying to calm down. Nothing else happened that night. But I still think about how close I came to stepping out of my car. And now, when I see a broken down vehicle on an empty highway, I just keep driving. I broke my number one rule: never stop at an empty rest area at night. I walked in alone, but when I turned to leave, I wasn't alone anymore. I drove into a rest stop that looked mostly empty. There were a few trucks parked far away, probably with drivers sleeping inside, but there were no cars near the building itself. The lights were on, and so I assumed it was fine. I parked as close as possible to the entrance and went inside. The place felt too quiet, and that made me feel a bit uncomfortable. It wasn't just empty. There was no talking, no footsteps, and no music. I went into the bathroom and did what I needed to do. When I went to wash my hands, I noticed a man standing near the exit. At first, I assumed he was waiting for someone or had just finished using the bathroom. But he wasn't washing his hands or using the mirror. He was just standing there, facing the wall. I told myself to stop being silly. People do weird things, and I didn't want to be that person who assumes the worst. I dried my hands and started walking toward the door. That's when the man moved a bit closer to the exit. He wasn't blocking it completely, but he moved enough that I noticed. I said, "Excuse me," trying to sound casual. He didn't say anything, and he didn't even turn his head. I waited for a second, and then squeezed past him. I noticed he smelled strongly of sweat, like he'd been standing there for a very long time. When I got outside, I started to walk faster. Halfway to my car, I heard footsteps behind me. At first, I thought they were probably my own, or maybe just someone else leaving the building. I didn't turn around, but then the footsteps got closer. I unlocked my car and got inside as fast as I could. My hands were shaking so badly that I dropped my keys once. After I started the engine and pulled away, I looked in my rearview mirror. I saw the same man standing under one of the lights. He was just standing there, watching me. I didn't relax until I was back on the highway. He didn't follow me, and nothing dramatic happened after that. But the thing that keeps me up at night is the silence. It was dead quiet in there. So how did he get behind me without me hearing the door open? The only explanation is that he was already there, hiding and waiting for someone to come in. Now, I don't care how late it is. I only stop if there are crowds and noise, because silence isn't always peaceful. Sometimes silence is a trap.